And it's YouTube time.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. We're coming to you with a YouTube exclusive.
Absolutely. From 2c3pod, Two's Company, Three's a Podcast. My name is Dylan, along with my co-host, as always,
Mitchell. And don't forget, make sure you check out our socials on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, or download our audio podcasts on Podbean, Spotify, Apple Podcasts,
or YouTube.
Big summer blowout.
Absolutely.
As you could probably tell from the title, we are here today to count down some of our favorite Jim Carrey movies.
Absolutely. Now, Jim Carrey obviously coming back into the limelight with the upcoming film Sonic. He's returning to his comedic, wacky, over-the-top Jim Carrey. Why do I keep fucking that up? Jim Carrey that we all know and love.
It's because on the podcast we talk about Jim Cameron quite a bit.
So often, yeah.
Yes.
So obviously two very different gentlemen, but let's rip straight in. Now, obviously, Jim Carrey has had a stellar career, and there's hundreds of movies that we had to choose from, which we can save for later YouTube exclusive episodes if we run out of content. We want to talk about Jim Carrey again. But for now, let's go through a few of our favorites.
That's right. And some of these, there may be more. There's going to be more.
Yeah.
And if you thought we missed one that is probably better than the other, leave a comment below.
Yeah,
right?
or let us know what your favorite Jim Carrey movies are. But for now, ripping into it, Mitchell, let's start with you. What's your
I started the last one.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm happy to start it. So, one of my most beloved Jim Carrey films of all time is going to be one that's fairly popular amongst the general population who like Jim Carrey, and it's called, of course, How the Grinch Stole Christmas. First on my list, obviously, Jim Carrey stars as The Grinch, which is a Christmas film that came out the year 2000.
Gosh.
Been a while now. So when the Benedict Cumberbatch Grinch animated film came out, maybe in 2018, 2017, whenever it was.
Yeah, thereabouts.
I was like, they're doing that again? Yeah, it's been plenty of time.
Yeah, that's right. Coming up on its 20th anniversary next year.
Absolutely.
Gosh.
The reason I love this film is because it's typical Jim Carrey. He was perfect for this role, but not only that, fair enough, it's a short film. It's a simple film based off obviously the famous writer from Dr. Zeus. Yeah. Directed by Ron Howard, of all people. Yeah. I admire the fact that Jim Carrey went full Jim Carrey in this film, and the fact that he had to undergo some kind of like Navy SEAL training. Really? Just for the sake of working in that costume, that outfit. There's no animation to that at all, and the dog is hilarious. I think this movie is really heartwarming, heartfelt, and I love it.
Of course, and it's probably one of the best Dr. Seuss adaptations out there, that's for sure.
Absolutely, and one of the best Christmas films too.
That's right, exactly. Coming up to the holiday season, ho ho, happy us.
Oh!
Yes, now moving on.
Yeah.
I didn't plan this, but my next one is his other Dr. Seuss adaptation.
All right.
And one of my favorite films. Now, as you know, being a father, I've had the chance to sit through quite a few children's films, and this one stuck with me, and I've watched so many times. I own it on Blu-ray, and I love it.
Yep.
Horton Hears a Who.
Right.
Of course, from Dr. Seuss as well.
Yeah.
Now, this one is the only animated one on, I think, both of our lists.
Yep.
And, man, it's amazing. It's just that awesome Dr. Seuss story. It's got the rhymes and all that. But my favorite part is Jim Carrey obviously plays Horton.
Yep.
And the best part is through his audio work, his voice work, you can hear the Jim Carrey comedy.
Yeah,
you can hear that silly slapstick and that. And you've also got Steve Carell in there as well.
Oh, very cool.
It's a great cast. It's a great story. One for the kids, but also for the adults. It's just, it's really nice.
Is there plenty of those sneaky adult sort of humor in it?
Of course there is.
Yeah,
of course there is, which they're very good at now in Hollywood. But no, Horton Hears a Who, one of my kids' favorites, one of my favorites. Jim Carrey, probably an under the radar best movie. Yeah.
See, I didn't know he was in that film, but that film was not very old, is it? It's only a few years old.
2008.
Oh, wow. Okay,
yep.
so it has been a while.
Pushing 11, 12 years. So,
well, there you go.
No, absolutely. But yeah, Horton Hears a Who. If you've got kids and they haven't seen it, sit them down. It's just fantastic.
Absolutely. Well, next on my list is another relatively obvious choice for any Jim Carrey fan out there. Obviously, being a fan of his comedy, this one's a bit more lighthearted, but hits on a very real sort of sentiment between, like, you know, the adult relationships between people living in, say, New York and high society kind of places, trying to make it and break it in their career, but being overshadowed by everybody who he works with, being disrespected by his wife because he's a bit of a loser. Yeah. He is enchanted the power of God. This is, of course, Bruce Almighty.
I gotta love Bruce Almighty.
Bruce Almighty starring Jim Carrey and, of course, Jennifer Aniston. One of the few...
Carell.
And Steve
Man,
Carell,
these are all
of
linking
course.
together nicely.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, there's obviously a continuous duo between, Jim Carrey and Steve Carell.
I think in Hollywood there's a common theme of people who get along and work well together. They like to stick together. So, yes,
absolutely. But, Jim Carrey stars as down on his luck news reporter, regular man, just trying to become the next anchor, and he just keeps getting beaten down until Morgan Freeman, who plays God, grants him the powers of God, but only can answer prayers and act as God within a small radius, but it becomes overwhelming for him. But it's one of those films that's essentially designed...
Buffalo, New York.
That's right. It's essentially a very warm, heartfelt film. It's about teaching him a lesson to appreciate the things in life and to respect those around him. So there's some really fantastical elements of this film that I really enjoy. I like the idea of Morgan Freeman as God, because that's just the perfect casting.
I was going to say, if there was anything that was going to turn my atheism around, it's Morgan Freeman as friggin' God.
Absolutely,
100%.
And I've always been a fan of sort of, different adaptations of the idea and concepts of religion.
Absolutely.
Not being religious myself, but this film does it in a way that I absolutely adore.
Clap on.
Yeah.
Yes.
But, so Bruce Almighty.
Moving on. Now, this one, yes, while still a comedy, it's definitely one of Jim Carrey's ventures into, I'm an actor, not just a comedic slapstick guy.
Yeah.
Now, The Truman Show.
Absolutely.
An absolute classic. If you haven't seen this, it is a fantastic film. And not just that, it's the concept. It's the concept of the fact that this poor guy has been trapped in what he perceives is the world.
Yeah.
But it's just a TV show.
Yeah.
And it's just a fantastic dive into somebody's mental breakdown and thinking everyone's against them kind of thing, but then also it actually being real. The fact that he is just trapped in a TV show and he is playing a character unbeknownst to him. And the entire world is watching him grow from a boy to the man he is. I
feel The Truman Show was one of those very early, if not the first movie that everybody expected to be a comedy and turned out to be a real drama, and Jim Carrey really got to flex his acting ability. That's right,
but it still had that comedy for the first 30, 40 minutes of it.
It did,
and
it made you believe.
Started to really break down a little bit, and the fact that he found out that everybody in his personal life was an actor.
Yeah.
That would ruin somebody.
Absolutely
ruin somebody.
And he escapes towards the end.
Exactly, that's right. And it's just a fantastic film in general. I think one of his highest rated critically films. So, The Truman Show, if you haven't had a chance to see it or you've been turned off by it not being a straight up comedy, it's worth your time, trust me.
Yeah, obviously, if everybody is familiar with Jim Carrey and his over-the-top wacky comedy, but if you're into the more down-to-earth character pieces, definitely check out The Truman Show. But the next on my list is a great segue into my next choice, because one of my favorite movies of all time, which before starting this recording, we discussed it briefly, and yes, there are some really weird moments in it in terms of storytelling and plot, which was a bit weird in terms of a bit, I wouldn't say lazy, but just maybe not as complicated as it could have been.
Yes.
It's a movie called The Number 23, which is the first R-rated serious drama of Jim Carrey's that I ever saw, and it blew me away.
Yeah, 100%. That one came out when I worked at the video store.
You worked at a video store?
I know, shock and
awe.
That's right. But no, 100%, because there is not a lick of comedy in it.
No, there is a very minor moment of Jim Carrey isn't at the very beginning, because he's a park ranger.
Yeah.
There's a particular moment.
But no more than any other horror, thriller, mystery film.
That's right. But he plays a character who's essentially, he's discovered this book, which he discovers that he'd written in a former life.
Yeah.
And he's unraveling his past. But the laziest, maybe not the laziest, but the most obvious moment, which the movie kind of spoils for itself, is that the book was written by a man named Topsy Kretz.
Yeah.
Which... it doesn't take a fucking genius to know that means top secrets. It's just, they could have done that aspect a bit better. That's probably what you were thinking.
Yeah, 100%.
But overall, the film is really good. I think the writing's really good. It's just that moment that kind of lets it down for me. Came out in 2011, but directed by Joel Schumacher.
Wow.
The guy who... basically had a great ideas for Batman, but everybody believes he was the one who ruined it. There's a backstory to that, but we won't get into it. But Joel Schumacher, the guy who's known for making this silly, wacky, out there Batman films. Created one of the most like down to earth, sort of hard hitting, sort of crime mystery thrillers.
That's right.
Starring Jim Carrey. Ever. So I definitely give this movie high praise. The number 23.
Like the Truman Show, it's just nice to see him doing something other than the old slapstick routine.
Yeah,
Not that
absolutely.
there's anything wrong with that.
No,
but,
absolutely.
It came out in 2007. You said 11 by mistake.
Did I? Sorry.
Yep.
Yeah, 2007.
No, that's right. But speaking of 7, 1997 brought us one of my favorite Jim Carrey comedies, Liar Liar.
All Pants on Fire.
Yes, no, I love Liar Liar. Liar Liar was one of those ones that I rented from the video shop on a family movie night.
You worked at a video shop?
No, I rented from one when I was a child. But yes, no, this was one that was rented at the video shop with the family and that, and myself and my sisters and mum and dad sat
just
down
like
and
my
watched
next
it.
one. Yeah,
It's just one of those classic, perfect Jim Carrey, family good, fun movies, and so quotable. Quotable. The pen is blue.
That came out at a time
was it
when
good for you?
Jim Carrey was at his like comedic heights. You know, like everything he did had a similar sort of style to it.
Yes.
And for some people, it got a little bit annoying, but for others, it was like that's all you wanted from this guy.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I look back on his career and I appreciate all of those films now because, well, we didn't live in the time where, well, we were living in the time, but we weren't.
We weren't old enough to experience it.
We weren't old enough to experience the back to get sick of it. We got to see these films as they'd already been released and as grown, mature, well, somewhat mature adults now and appreciate them more. But Liar Liar, Carrie Ells, Jennifer Aniston, it's just a great. Jennifer Aniston, my apologies. I just said that. That's Bruce Almighty. My apologies.
Sure is.
Yes. Maura Tierney. Tierney? Yes.
Cool.
Yeah. But anyway, Liar Liar, fantastic comedy. Obviously, you've seen it, so thanks for watching.
Beautiful. Well, last on my list of all-time, essentially, some of our favorite Jim Carrey films is one that we did rent when I was a child, as a family, and we probably watched it when I was way too young. But this is one of those movies that as a kid, it introduced me to adult comedies because this movie is not for children, but I found it hilarious in the most amazing ways. This is a film starring Jim Carrey, Renee Zellweger, and an A-list cast of other actors, which I'll get through in a moment. It's called Me, Myself and Irene. Jim Carrey plays a copper who's suffering from like a dissociative identity disorder, so he splits between him and like another character. I can't quite remember the names, but Renee Zellweger is caught up with it, and they're on a road trip essentially, you know, to get from one place to the next, and they come across all of these wacky adventures in the middle. He has a few adopted sons who are all giant black people, and it's hilarious. And typical Jim Carrey, he's able to switch it from one particular type of wacky character to the next. At one moment, he's this sweet copper with a sweet, like, really nice heart. Next, he's this really hard-boiled, crazy, out there fucking dude with a completely mental. I love this film, and I adore this film for everything that was going for it.
I'm just amazed you got to watch it as a child.
Like this movie came out when I was 6.
That's right, and it's not one for kids at all. Because, there's 2 scenes I remember from this movie vividly. Is the Cottonmouth scene with the water cooler and that, and then the other one is when he goes to the toilet after waking up in the motel and says, "Why am I peeing like I've been up all night having sex?"
Because the whiz just goes straight to the right. But not only that, at the very end, someone gets a chicken stuck up their ass as well.
That's right, of course. There's plenty of that.
And he gets a bum chin, and he says, well, when you sneeze, you get to wipe your ass. You know, this movie is filled with amazing one-liners, which I don't think this film gets enough credit for these days because it's one of my personal favourites. Came out the year 2000. Hard R. Watched it as a kid. Loved it. Still loved it to this day. So
I
that's
definitely
my
have
pick.
to go back and rewatch that one.
Absolutely.
All right, now my number one. If anybody knows me personally, they know what it is. They know what it is.
Drum roll.
All right. And I'm sure it's some of yours as well. Ace Ventura. Pet Detective. But
Absolutely.
I'm also going to pencil in there When Nature Calls because to me they're equally just as good. Pet Detective 6 would be
100% allowing that.
But I feel like together, just this was his
introduction.
He'd done a few things, but this was his like, I'm a star. This was like, I'm carrying this, you know? It wasn't a huge
Jim carrying this.
That's right.
Bad jokes.
But no, this was, and it still to me holds up today as one of the most quotable Jim Carrey films of all time.
Not just quotable, but like memorable in terms of the things that he does.
No, that's right.
Those
like
films.
It's amazing that like myself and my shift mate at work.
Yeah.
There's an age gap there. and he knows it as well as I do. Like, it's spanned generations so far, and I feel like as silly as it is, and as an actual film, it's not amazing, but just Jim Carrey being Jim Carrey. If you like Jim Carrey, you love Ace Ventura. Absolutely. It's as simple as that. There's just so many things I still say, hungry fella. There you go. Yeah. Like this, it's just one of the most quotable Jim Carrey films, and I love it to bits. And I'm sure if you're watching this as a Jim Carrey fan, this is definitely one of your top films.
Absolutely. Now, is Ace Ventura, is that based off a pre-established cartoon, or was that an original story when the movie came out back then?
I'm not going to try and...
Because I know that there was a spin-off film, like The Son of or whatever.
No,
and I know
Ace Ventura, Pet Detective Jr.
And I know that there was like a cartoon or something as well. I had a feeling that it was based on a cartoon, but I can't confirm that. I don't know. Even if it does, these movies stand on their own. Ace Ventura 1 and 2 are amazing films.
Yes, that's right. And When Nature Calls is just as quotable. I mean, Slinky, Slinky, everyone loves the Slinky. And then, like, you must be the Monopoly guy. I mean, I could go on all day about Jim Carrey and Ace Ventura.
Yeah.
That's where I get my hair inspiration.
Amazing.
No, I'm joking. Yes, my hair is terrible. But anyway, so that will wrap us up for this edition of 2c3pod YouTube exclusive.
Absolutely. Top of the morning to you. That's been our episode for YouTube this week. Thank you very much for tuning in, everybody.
That's right. And I was going to say, you never know. Come next year, if we revisit Jim Carrey, we may have a new one added to the list.
Absolutely. Yes. Because the reason we're doing this is because of Sonic, as we said earlier. Jim Carrey's returning to form, which we're all looking forward to. And it looks like he's going to be putting in an A-list effort.
Yeah, it looks like Jim Carrey of old. So I am all about that.
Cannot wait. Anyway, that's been our show for this week. Thank you very much for tuning in.
That's right. Make sure you check out the podcast on Podbean, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or of course, YouTube. Big Summer Blowout.
You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, all at 2c3pod. In the corner there, you can see the logo.
That's right. And don't forget, click that like button, hit that subscribe button, and ring that darn bell
to stay notified on everything that we put out, because we put out 2 podcasts every week, every Wednesday, every Friday.
That's right, and 4 YouTube videos every week. So you've been warned, the content is there.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for watching this video. My name is Dylan, as always, along with my co-host
Mitchell, and don't forget, we are Two's Company, and you are the podcast.
Hey, thanks for checking out that video of Two's Company, Three's a Podcast. We really appreciate it. Wasn't it really something? Why don't you drop a comment down below while you're still here on what you thought about that video. And once you're done, go check out the next video. Feel free to hit subscribe as well. I think it'll be a really good investment for your future.